Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, a podcast where we look for moments of hope in the midst of adversity. I'm MommaFoxFire, and I am really glad you're here today because this episode is one I've been sitting on for a while, and honestly, I think it was worth the wait. Before we get into that, I want to acknowledge that March is here, and for a lot of people, this month can be a lot. We just hit Self-Injury Awareness Day on March 1st, which kicks off a full month of self-harm awareness. That is heavy in and of itself, but it really matters. If that's something you or someone you know is dealing with, please reach out for help. You can find links to resources in the show notes. We've also got daylight savings time coming up on March 8th, which I know sounds like a small thing, but losing that hour of sleep genuinely messes with a lot of people, including myself. Sleep deprivation can hit mood, anxiety, and your ability to cope way harder than most people give it credit for. So be patient with yourself this week if you feel a little bit off. It's not just in your head. March 20th is the International Day of Happiness, and that can feel kind of tone deaf depending on where you are emotionally currently. But I like to flip that one around. It's less about performing happiness and more of a reminder to notice what's actually good in your life, even when things are hard. And March 30th is World Bipolar Day. So if that's part of your story or someone you love, this month is a moment to lean in, learn something new, and check in with the people around you. Okay, now let's talk about today's episode. This interview was recorded back in 2020, so it has been sitting in the vault for a while. But the subject matter has not aged a day because dealing with narcissists and healing from those relationships is not a trend, but something a lot of people are living with right now and have been for a long time. I sat down with Dr. Stephanie Kriesberg, a clinical psychologist out of New England with over 20 years of experience. She specializes in helping people with narcissistic parents and is one of the only therapists in New England certified in the treatment model developed from the book, Will I Ever Be Good Enough?, which focuses specifically on daughters of narcissistic mothers. She also has extensive training in clinical hypnotherapy, which is what makes this conversation so interesting. Let me just give you the quick and dirty on what we covered. Narcissism is more than just someone being selfish or full of themselves. There are actually two main types: the loud, charming, look-at-me kind that most people picture, and a quieter, more covert kind that manipulates people into taking care of them without making a lot of noise about it. Both types share the same core: no real ability to empathize consistently, no self-awareness, and an expectation that other people exist to manage their emotions for them. What makes these relationships so hard to leave, and sometimes hard to even recognize, is that narcissists can be genuinely magnetic early on. They make you feel seen, needed, and special. And then when that shifts, and it always does shift, you've already rationalized a lot. Dr. Kriesberg is really straight in our conversation about that, and she doesn't make you feel stupid for having been there. We also get into clinical hypnotherapy, and this is where it gets really interesting. It's nothing like you've seen in Vegas. Clinical hypnotherapy is a focused, relaxed state that helps you access parts of your own memory and imagination you can't always reach when you're stressed or overwhelmed. Dr. Kriesberg uses it with clients to help them reconnect with who they were before a difficult relationship wore them down, and that's a really powerful thing. So whether you've been in one of these relationships, you're in one right now, you're raising kids with someone like this, or you've just always wondered what the deal is with narcissism, this conversation is a great place to start. It's real, there's no fluff, and Dr. Kriesberg is the kind of person you immediately trust. All right, let's get into it. We are here. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. We're going to be talking about hypnotherapy and coping with narcissists. We have our guest here with us, Dr. Stephanie Kriesberg. She works as a clinical psychologist helping parents, children, teens, and adults with narcissistic parents lead healthier and happier lives. She brings over 20 years of experience to her practice and has extensive training in the treatment of anxiety disorders and the use of clinical hypnosis. Recently, she was honored to be elected as a member at large to the board of the New England Society for Clinical Hypnosis, so congratulations on that. She is the only therapist in New England certified in the model of therapy based on Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers by Dr. Carol McBride. And I have a link for you guys on that one. Here's that link. You're going to get a count. If you do not go to bed, it never ends. One of the things that Dr. Kriesberg loves most about her work is she never stops learning from her clients, her ongoing professional training, and her experience as a mother to two daughters. She treats her clients with respect and dignity, whether they call, email, or see her in the office. So first of all, just thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really thrilled to be here.
So we'll start off with what sometimes is the easiest and sometimes is kind of the hardest question. So sort of a softball, but also sometimes pretty detailed. But why do you do what you do?
Love my job, and I really couldn't imagine doing anything else. And when I went off to college, I actually started off studying journalism. And then when I realized I didn't want to write hard news, I became an English major, English and creative writing. And I think it all goes together because when you love to read books and novels, it's all about people's stories. And that's what I love about my work. I'm just always listening to people, hearing their stories, trying to help them figure out their stories. So I think it's all part of the same interest. I just took it in a different direction.
Yeah.
And
I was one of the ones who changed major several times. And looking back now, I can see how I used a lot of my major still. Do you feel like you used a lot of your major still from when you started off to when you completed?
I think so. Maybe if not the major exactly, but themes were always there. And just, yes, the love of words and ideas and listening it. And yes, trying to figure people out. Yes, it's all in there. And just really learning how to look at things deeply like you do when you're reading a novel. So yes, it's all there from the beginning. Like I said, I just
Yeah.
took my love of books and character and just took it in a different direction.
Do you have a favorite book or a book that you read when you were in college or after college that you kind of go back to over and over?
Gosh, what a great question. Well, I always think too that one of my favorite books is, and I'm working on a book right now, on dealing with narcissistic parents. And one of my favorite books that I read when I was in college was called A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. And it's really just a short, almost essay. And there's a famous quote in which she writes, "A woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction." And what it really told me is that, women need to take care of themselves and they need to have space and time and independence to do the work they want.
Yeah.
And it really stuck with me.
Yeah, I
And
think
I
that
think it's
that's
really,
beautiful.
yeah, and it's really related to, I think, this theme that we're going to talk about tonight, which is being in a relationship with a narcissist because you can really lose yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so important, no matter what your goal is, to not lose yourself, to have a sense of who you are as a person and to hold on to that.
Absolutely. I did post a link to that book for anyone who's interested. That's just on Goodreads. I don't think you can buy it from Goodreads, but that'll get you the right author, the right book title and everything so you can buy it from wherever you buy your books.
Wonderful. That's great. You're so quick.
Yeah, I specialize in multitasking, which sometimes is multi-half-assing, but that's okay.
I like that.
Uh, so do you have a favorite serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
Oh, what a question. Well, I thought it was interesting that you asked that because for a while I was really on a kick where I was listening to a lot of wonderful podcasts. I recommend Wondery for true crime stories. And one that really stuck with me is called Dirty John. I don't know if you're familiar with
I am
that.
not.
Okay, well, that's a really interesting one and is about a woman who falls in love with and very quickly marries this guy who sweeps her off her feet. He really turns out to be really not even just a narcissist, but a sociopath and a criminal. And in spite of being very successful and smart, and her family telling her this guy is no good, stay away from him, she just know, praise him, and it just leads to a whole bunch of trouble.
Mm,
And it was also made into a series, a really interesting series on Bravo TV show. And, it just for someone who's interested in narcissism, it really raises the question of, what drew this woman who's intelligent,
mhm.
successful, so many ways has her head on straight to fall for a guy like this.
Yeah.
And what vulnerabilities did she have inside that
Do
would
they
allow that?
go into that on the Wondery podcast story?
There, it indirectly, not
Mm,
really directly. They show some experiences that she had in her family. Um, and then you're sort of left to maybe draw some conclusions yourself, made of made her vulnerable.
yeah.
But they don't necessarily uh, connect the dots for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the nice thing about shows and everything versus just documentaries is that sometimes they leave a lot of things for you to explore on your own and you're like, "Wait, they said this one thing," and you kind of got to go look it up for yourself or try to figure it out for yourself, which I think is a really cool thing about podcasts and stories and kind of the docudrama pieces. But documentaries are great, but sometimes they just come off as a little bit dry. But yeah, I haven't listened to the Wondery podcast. I'll have to check that one out for sure.
And there are some other ones, similar, true crime ones, but where they really get into sort of the character of the people and, how people get involved with others that are just, clearly so bad for them. Their judgment just gets so awry.
Yeah.
So I think they're really interesting set of podcasts.
Yeah. We have one podcast that comes up over and over for us in this chat is just the My Favorite Murder podcast. Have you listened to that one?
No, I haven't, but it's on my list. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to get that recommendation from you also.
Yeah, I haven't listened to very much of it, but we have some fans, like some fans of that podcast. So it is pretty good. Hey, Meg Craig, thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people who, well, not a lot, we have a few people who listen to My Favorite Murder, and it's one that just comes up over and over. So I'll be interested, if Fee is not here, I'll be interested to make sure that she knows about that one for sure. That'll stop linking in a second.
Okay, well, good to know because I'm always looking for good podcasts to listen to when I'm out, walking my dog. So, no, thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question is when do you make the time to listen to podcasts? So is
Oh,
it when you're out walking your dog? Do you listen to them when you're driving or anything like that too?
kind of generally three things: walking my dog, driving, or cooking. When I'm cooking, chopping vegetables and things, I find that's also a really, getting some chores done around the house, folding
Yeah,
laundry. Those are all, if I have a podcast that I'm looking forward to listening to, it just makes those chores,
right.
just a lot more fun and interesting to do, just so cheerful.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
that's one of
it.
those things if you can pair something fun with something not fun, like it makes it a little bit makes it that much better. Right, right. Twitch with chores. There you go. Driving
Uh-huh.
Bite Mark said driving and walking my dog, sure, but cooking absolutely not. I need all of my focus for cooking. Well, to
Uh-huh.
each their own. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So those are kind of like the main things.
yeah. So, for those who haven't encountered a narcissist for any extended period of time, can you describe some common traits, kind of a how to spot a narcissist 101 type thing?
Okay. Well, there are sort of can be kind of two types of narcissists. And so there's type of narcissist that in psychology we call the grandiose narcissist. And that's the person that's kind of the stereotypical narcissist that we all kind of think of. So on the surface, this is the person that brags a lot, that this is really full of themselves, talks about themselves a lot, takes up all the attention in the room. Okay. I'll get to sort of what's going on underneath the narcissist moment. But they're also the kind of person who, and they're not getting all the attention. If you're in a relationship with them, may become very critical of you, very angry because they need all that attention to kind of fill up the emptiness inside them. On the surface, they may seem like, they have the world by a string. Really, they just have a big hole inside them. And there's a quieter type of narcissist that many people are not so aware of. In psychology, we call that person the covert or the vulnerable narcissist. And this is a person who, some people think of the kind of person who might be sick all the time, or just very quiet, but gets people to do a lot of things for them, kind of wait on them hand and foot. Maybe the kind of person who just, at the office doesn't really get their work done, but has everybody else doing their work for them and kind of manipulates other people into taking care of them. What underneath lies underneath all of this is the idea that I'm special, more important than other people. I'm entitled to have other people pay attention and take care of me. And if they don't get those needs met, become very angry, maybe depressed and withdrawn, so that you wind up feeling somehow responsible for them, responsible for whatever emotion they're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Morse, it sounds like a small child. You're not wrong in that. That does sound like a small child who kind of needs all the attention part of that.
That's right, and I'm glad you brought that up about being a small child because really what a narcissist is a child in an adult's body, someone who has never really matured psychologically and emotionally. So one of the key characteristics you'll see is this great inability to empathize with other people. They just truly are not capable of regular basis understanding other people's emotions, identifying them, and responding to them. The truth is, they don't understand their own emotions either. They really lack self awareness and they have no ability to manage their own emotions.
Right.
And so they can't respond to other people's emotions as well. They rely on other people or outside accomplishments. We call it regulate their own feelings and their moods and their self esteem. So, in other words, if you're paying attention to them, they're in a good mood or they feel good. Take that away, you're going to get angry, withdraw, get depressed. You become just sort of an object. Help them feel good about themselves.
Right.
And it can't last very long.
Yeah. So like
So,
there's a lot of things that are most of those things sound really negative, right? About a narcissist. They sound really negative, but people enter into relationships or friendships with narcissists all the time. So
mhm.
how does a narcissist essentially charm you into that?
Well, there could be a couple of different ways. One, at the beginning, many narcissists, the grandiose narcissist that I mentioned, they can be exactly very charming. They can have really big personalities. They can be very exciting, be very successful. At the beginning, they can just lavish you with a lot of attention and make you feel like $1,000,000. Or you could almost feel like you're sort of basking in their reflected glory. Here's this person who's really successful. They're paying a lot of attention to me, really need me. So that makes you feel really good, feel really needed. So, and basically, they can just be very charming, witty, funny. So that's a very appealing person until you stop being able or you don't meet their every need at every moment. Vulnerable narcissist maybe can be someone who's sort of maybe needy, be kind of depressed. And for some people, that's also an appealing type of person. You feel like I can fix that person. I can make
Hmm.
them better. I'll take care of them. This wilted flower will bloom with my attention. And That doesn't really very
Yeah.
often either.
Right.
So
Yeah, I feel like
so there's
a lot of the time in a relationship, if you're trying to fix the other person, like, it's not gonna work out very well.
it's not gonna work out very well. So I think you can see both those patterns
Yeah.
are
Yeah. Um,
seductive in different ways.
right. Right. Moore said that's what we're helping my child with. He has cerebral, oh my gosh, that word is so hard for me to say. Cerebral palsy. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I struggle with that word.
It's a hard
Totally makes
word.
sense because that part of the brain didn't develop. Yeah. The empathy piece, is that what you're kind of referring to? That makes sense.
Um, uh, and the thing about the empathy is, and this is kind of important, is that I used to think that narcissists just had no empathy, they were incapable of it. And now we know that their empathy can fluctuate depending on the situation, their
Hmm.
mood, how they're doing. It's not just, oh, they can never empathize. So that's part of why also you're going to fall for them because they may be, empathetic sometimes, or it may be a superficial empathy, or sometimes they can be empathetic. And so, when you get that little taste of it, it draws you in. But then when they really can't be empathetic, it can be pretty bad.
Right.
So they can't be consistently empathetic enough to have really a healthy relationship with somebody.
Yeah. Sniper said he has a question about hypnotism. So he says he has heard about using hypnotism for nicotine addiction or alcohol. Does it work for all addictions like gambling in particular?
Question. I don't know about any particular research on the use of hypnotherapy and gambling or alcohol use. But use of clinical hypnotherapy is well established with habits like smoking, nail biting, types of weight control, certain types of habit disorders. And if it's okay, this could be a good moment just to talk a little bit about clinical hypnotherapy,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
different okay, the difference between, clinical hypnotherapy and kind of hypnotism. When most people, or a lot of times when people think of, hypnotism, you think of kind of stage hypnosis. Like maybe you go to Las Vegas or you're at a party and I'm going to call someone up from the audience and waves a watch and they run around and cluck like a chicken.
Right.
And that understandably scares a lot of people off hypnosis. That is not what a trained, licensed mental health practitioner does. So we call that stage hypnosis. It's entertainment. So it's more like a show. And that's kind of something of various reasons why a vulnerable person called up from an audience might vulnerable to that experience. But what we do in clinical hypnotherapy is really help someone go into a state of trance for the purpose of using focused attention and their imagination, to solve problem. And the thing is, we go into a state of trance all the time, every day. It's a very natural process. So we're not inducing you into something that you don't naturally do anyway.
Right.
We're just harnessing it. So I just want to kind of clarify that.
No, I think that that's a good clarification. And it's one of those things that, I mean, you think of hypnosis and you think of somebody on a show or something going one, two, three, and then you're going to do something, like right on your hand or whatever. And it's completely different. But yeah, I think that that's a really good distinction to make, especially. I know we're going to talk about hypnotism a little bit more a little bit later, but that's what we can get back to it. Sniper, if you have anything else you want to clarify with that, feel free. And y'all, as you're chatting, I am making sure that we're going to get to all of the comments and everything. So don't feel like you're being ignored. We'll fit it in as we go. So Bite Mark said a metaphor something that resonates most with me is that when you're with a narcissist and they're happy, it's like the sun is shining on you. Over time, the sun shines less and less. So that's oh man, it's been too long since I was in English. Simile is when you use the word like, right?
Oh gosh, I was an English major and I can't even keep that straight.
But yeah, that's a really good comment. Like whenever they are shining on you, it's wonderful.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna enter into a period where it is not shining and it's very cold.
That's right, and they can often be very critical, very angry, or just withdraw from you. And I would just add to that, I think that's a great metaphor, simile, whatever it is. I would just add to that, and then if you might bring it up, say, "Oh, are you angry at me or what's going on?" Or they might blame you, say, "It's well, you caused this," or do something that we call gaslighting. Say, why do you think that way? Nothing's wrong. It's just your imagination, which
Hmm.
then causes doubt your sense of reality or your own perceptions,
Yeah.
which is another very difficult part about being in a relationship with a narcissist.
Yeah, we've talked about gaslighting quite a bit here before, and just the dangers of that, and that you should try not to, let other people mess with your perceptions of things. But it's hard. It's hard not to sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Bill Kriesberg, I'm guessing you know this person, maybe or not, maybe not. It's okay. Says, do you think it's possible for narcissists to get out of being a narcissist or get help, or because of the nature of their issues, will they refuse help or refuse that they have a problem? That's a great question.
Yes, I think that it's pretty rare for a narcissist to come to therapy or to get help. That one of the hallmarks of narcissism is a lack self-awareness. I mean, it's something that exists on a spectrum. Maybe if someone is very on the mild end of the spectrum, they might have some self-awareness. But usually, narcissists get help only under duress. They're going to lose their job, lose their marriage. Help is not usually very successful
Yeah.
because usually sees everything as somebody else's fault.
Yeah, and it's hard to admit that you need help if you think that everything is someone else's fault. That's really true.
Yeah.
If I don't think that something is my fault, why would I get help for it, But what are some of the dangers of relationships with narcissists?
I think, just some of the biggest problems is kind of what we just touched on. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you really start to just doubt your own sense of reality. You doubt your own sense of self or sense of right and wrong. You don't believe in yourself anymore. So, the narcissist might say, why are you upset about that? And you start to say, yeah, why am I upset about that? It's okay that she did this, or it's okay that he did that. And you can't hold on to what you want from life, what your feelings are. And that can just start to just turn into this, tornado
Hmm.
that you can't get out of. And that the more you do it, the more it happens. And you just really start to lose yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard thing. Do most people recognize that they're in a relationship with a narcissist, or that a friend is a narcissist, or one of their family members is a narcissist? Is that something that people typically recognize fairly easily?
No, I think really depends. I mean, I think when you're really in the heart of a relationship with a narcissist, not really, because you care about the person, maybe you love the person, you make excuses. It's like, well, he he speaks so critical of me because his job is so hard right now. And when this gets better, he won't be like that. Or if I had only done this, he wouldn't do that. So, we do a lot of rationalizing.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard for us to step back and see what we're in middle of.
Yeah.
Um, so, one thing I always think it's really important to know is that often the signs are there at the beginning. So if at the very beginning someone is unreliable or critical of you or harsh or angry or deceptive, signs of dishonesty or manipulation, pay attention to those.
Yeah.
Don't whitewash them or make excuses because those are red flags that someone could be a narcissist. And those are not situational. Those
Yeah.
are signs of someone. character. And those are not going to change.
Yeah, there's something that I've seen kind of over and over recently where people will say if someone shows you in a relationship who they are early on, trust them. Like that is who they are. If they show it to you, don't think that it's just an error. Like once they show you, recognize that that's what it is and be honest with yourself about what you're in kind of thing. So,
That's right. And be willing to walk away and protect yourself and know that you deserve and that you don't need to make excuses for them.
yep. So, I know that we talked about kind of the likelihood of narcissists to even get help. But if they are confronted, if they do go, let's say that they go to therapy to quote unquote save their marriage, or they go to therapy for a family reason or something like that, is it easy for them to change that part of them?
Is it easy? No, I don't think it's easy for any of us to change,
Mhm.
really entrenched of ourselves. So no, I don't definitely don't think it's easy. I mean, I think there are people who work with narcissists and work to help them change. I think it's hard. I think if they're really committed, it's possible. Yes, that
Yeah.
it can happen. Partner also has to be willing to kind of hang in there. And sometimes people are motivated if there's children or there's some reason.
Mhm.
You also have to make sure that you're safe and your kids are safe.
Right,
Um,
right. Yeah.
while you're doing that.
Absolutely. What are some of the worst, if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, what are some of the worst things you can do when dealing with a narcissist?
The least helpful is to we talked about expecting them to, become a different person. I think is expecting them to be able to understand point of view. So that kind of goes back to the empathy. I think
Mhm,
sometimes what happens is people feel like if I just really explain, if I'm really clear, if I just really explain it well enough, they'll get it. And that's just not going to happen. They really, if someone is really narcissistic, they're not going to get it. And sometimes people feel if only I just was clear enough or said it well enough, they'll get it. And that burden is not on you. So I think one of the least helpful things you can do is just to try to explain, 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 explain. I think you can make your case, you can say your point of view, say what you need and what you want, be assertive, set boundaries. Don't own the responsibility for fixing things. So I guess that's one of the things that I would say. And know that they don't do well with criticism. Not saying that you shouldn't criticize them and that you shouldn't state what you need, but just be clear to say it in terms of like those I statements. Really get very angry and you just want to really protect yourself.
yeah. Is there, can you give us an example of a time where if you are just kind of like if you are criticizing a narcissist and you want to use one of those I statements, can you kind of show us what that looks like?
Sure. So, you know, let's say you have a narcissistic boyfriend and you have him over for dinner. You worked really hard, you make this really nice meal, then he comes over and just starts complaining about the dinner or he had a better dinner somewhere else. And then instead of saying, you're so ungrateful or you're so unappreciative, because he'll probably just start lashing back out at you, could just say, it really hurts my feelings. You didn't like this dinner. I worked really hard on it.
Hmm.
And that makes me feel really bad when you say those things.
Yeah.
So something like that.
So you
Um,
shouldn't do what I do with my kids and say, if you don't like it, starve.
know, I mean, sometimes, truthfully, humor, all joking aside, humor is not the worst thing in the world
Hmm.
either,
Yeah.
right? Right. I'm a big favor of that. I think if you did say you don't like it, fine, more for me.
Yeah.
Humor can be actually, put that on the resource list. There's a book called Wendy Bahari, a therapist called Disarming the Narcissist. And, you have to use your judgment. But that could be a little disarming, just kinda,
Hmm.
because you're kinda like saying, "Listen, my problem."
Yeah. Yeah, I very much deal with humor with my kids. Not that they're narcissists by any stretch. As a matter of fact, one of them is so empathetic that you can barely say a crossword to her. She'll start, just bawling. Um,
Mhm.
but I do a lot of there's a lot of humor in my house, and so I think that's saying
Mhm.
more for me. I'm gonna adopt that. I'm gonna have to use that next time. So most of the time, I just say that's okay. You don't have to eat. I don't care. I'm not making you another meal.
Yeah.
But I like that more for me.
So,
Here's the link to that book also. I just posted it in the chat.
great. Okay.
So, kind of on the other hand, what are some of the most helpful things you can do when dealing with a narcissist? And what are some things that you can do to protect yourself as well?
Well, I think some of the most helpful things that you can do is to stand up for yourself, not make excuses for their behavior, try to see things clearly, and really try to just stay tuned into what it is that you want, who you are, as opposed to being so focused on what they need, what do they
Hmm.
want. So that's, from the psychological point of view. Of course, it's a whole different kettle of fish if you're involved with somebody who's being, abusive to you, if you're in an
Yeah.
abusive relationship. And, of course, we need to talk about having a safety plan and protecting your money. And that's probably a whole different show, right?
Yeah.
From a psychological perspective, it's like I said, don't make excuses for them. Don't try to fix their feelings and fix their life. Um, hold on to who you are.
Yeah.
I call it listening to your inner voice.
Yeah. Is there a point where if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you should walk away?
Well, certainly, I think there is. You know, I mean, if when you don't feel respected, that you are, an equal to that person, if you're being, belittled, your needs don't count. To me, that's not a relationship.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that in any healthy relationship, it's not always going to be equal 50-50 all the
Right.
time. It's going to go like this. But if it's like this, that's not good. If that other person can't hear you, if you're always feeling frustrated and that person just has, emotional blinders on, and that's not everything you say falls on deaf ears. That's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah. So, if you have been in a relationship with a narcissist, and this could be a spouse or a partner or someone you work with or a parent, how do you heal from that relationship with a narcissist? And I guess from two perspectives, kind of how do you heal from that if it's someone you don't deal with anymore, and also how do you heal from that with the person who is still in your life. So if it's a parent or something and you're not willing to cut them out of your life completely, how do you heal from that relationship?
Okay. Kind of two different things there.
Yeah.
So, if a person is not in your life anymore, if you've, if you've separated from that person, I think it really helps to educate yourself about narcissism so you understand what it is that you were dealing with, and then maybe start to understand whatever individual vulnerabilities you might have had may have made you a little bit more likely to get involved with a narcissist. I mean, I think anybody can get involved with a narcissist because, they're charming, they're seductive, and
Hmm.
we're all going to be drawn to people like that. But, for some reason, some of us might be a little bit more vulnerable. So take a look at that, try to understand that, and then just really focus on developing your skills and understanding who you are. You know, um, I talk to women a lot about developing skills around a few different things. Assertiveness. How do you stand up for yourself? How do you know what you want in life and go after your own goals? How do you set healthy boundaries with people? And that can apply to men as well.
Hmm.
How do you know what you like and don't like? And those are some really good places to start.
Absolutely. So are there
And then
some, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and if you're still involved with a narcissist, it's kind of those same things as well.
Yeah, I think the education piece of that is really important because especially if you're in a current, like it's good to educate yourself to look back and say, okay, here's what was happening. I wasn't crazy. Like this was really going on kind of thing. And try to understand your piece in that and their piece in that. But especially if it's going on, I feel like maybe the education piece is a little more important if it's still happening, just so that you can arm yourself with that knowledge and kind of understand too.
You don't feel like you're just being crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You
what are
see the
some
patterns.
right? I mean, yeah, if you can recognize the patterns and say, okay, they said this, but I understand this is what's happening and kind of react to the situation. Maybe it helps you react to the situation in a little more helpful way than you would otherwise. So what are some common misconceptions you hear from clients about their past or even their current relationships with a narcissist?
Some misperceptions. Okay. I guess the most common misconception might be, we've touched on this, that the person will change.
Mm.
If I just love them enough, they'll change. Or if we get past this bad patch, this bad job, or tough time at work, or that the person, things will get better. It's
Mhm.
temporary. Or if I do something different, that he or she will react differently to me, as opposed to having the person be responsible for their own behavior. It doesn't mean we don't, of course, we all have to look at our own responsibility in relationships and how we affect other people. I mean, of course we do. But ultimately, people have to be responsible for their behavior. And if you find yourself making excuse after excuse and waiting for things to get better all the time, that's really a red flag. Um,
Mhm.
Pay attention to. And I guess the other thing is misconception is realizing, like we talked about before, that those red flags are there at the beginning and to pay attention to those.
It's harder to see some things when you're in the beginning of a relationship. Everything is, roses and happy times, and you're like, oh well, I really like this person, so I can look past this thing. That's actually a pretty big red flag that you should pay attention to. So, um, I definitely think that people should listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. It's talking to you for a
Mhm.
reason.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If somebody, especially at the beginning, if someone is disrespectful of you, you know, contemptuous of you or other people, um, pay attention to those things.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, do you use hypnotherapy and hypnosis with your clients specifically to help them recover from past relationship scars?
Yes, absolutely. How it can be helpful is what clinical hypnosis does is, you go into a state of relaxation, but also focused attention. You can use sort of the imaginative part of your brain to solve problems. So I'll give you a couple of examples. And it kind of helps you tap into the storytelling of your brain. So, for example, we might do is you might use your imagination to kind of tap into memories of a time and you felt really good about yourself. Maybe you accomplished some some things, a time when you felt competent, successful, felt good about yourself. And so by really being able to go back in time and really remember those things and tap into those feelings, it helps you can also brings you back to that person that you were. So you're not just this person now who feels so beaten down
Hmm.
by that relationship. You can recall all those qualities that you have and bring them back into the present. And maybe you might go into your imagination to sort of imagine the future and imagine who you're going to be in the future when you've overcome this relationship. And it's really surprising what people can do when they're in a quiet, relaxed space and can really use their imagination.
I just can't imagine being in a quiet, relaxed space right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really hard. We're all really just COVID now. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's not a lot of relaxation going on right
Yeah, no, not right now. That's
now.
okay. We'll get back to normal, slowly but surely, safely, all that good stuff, all the S words
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
That's how hypnosis can be really helpful.
Yeah. So, how does hypnotherapy work process wise, and what are the benefits compared to something more quote unquote traditional like CBT or something like that?
There's lots of different therapies that can be helpful for, difficult experiences. So many different forms of therapy. So and I use, different approaches. Maybe I'll use some CBT or talk there, more traditional therapy. And hypnosis is generally not just standalone treatment. We weave it into their forms of psychotherapy. So so that's what I do. I integrate it into it might be CBT, more traditional talk therapy. Um, so some people use something for, traumatic relationships called EMDR, which is, you may have talked about that on your show, which is movement sensitization reprocessing. Some people use acceptance and commitment therapy. There's just so many different really excellent forms of therapy. And I think that one of the most important things to know is that main thing that research has showed over the years is that it's your connection with the therapist that is really healing in therapy, not even so much the type of therapy, the
Hmm.
model, how good you feel about your relationship with the therapist.
Yeah, I was just talking about that. I was just talking about that the other day because we've had come up on here before just the fact that you can fire your therapist. Like if you're not getting along with someone or if you're not clicking with a therapist, like fire them and get a different one, but don't just fire them
Mhm.
and quit because it might not just be, it's not that therapy isn't helpful. It's that particular person you just don't quite click with. So it's good to hear you say like it is the relationship with the therapist because especially for me, when I was in therapy, 2015 ish, I didn't click with my therapist at all. And it was not a good experience. And I thought that's just how therapy was. And I'm really glad that I went back and tried it again with someone else because now I've got the person who's really, um, that relationship with the therapist is quite different than it was with the other one because we just see more eye to eye on things. So it's good to hear you say that
Mhm.
it's more the relationship with the therapist than the therapy itself. But that's good.
Absolutely. And I think it's important that people have a right to know that, you know, meet with different people, find someone who feels right to you.
Mhm.
I tell people the ball's in your court. Um, you have to feel, you know, good about this connection.
Yeah, I don't know when we were talking about it, if it was on stream or if it was something else, but I was talking to someone and saying, interview them. You go to that first appointment and they're going to be asking you all these questions, but you ask some questions too. Like you try to make sure that it's the right fit in that first appointment as well. And
Mhm.
I even because I was trying to find a therapist for my daughter, I did a lot of like emailing saying, "Listen, how would you handle this situation? How would you handle this situation?" kind of thing and helped her pick based on that. So it's one of those things that it's always good to reaffirm that it's the fit, it's the right fit that's most
Oh,
helpful.
yeah. Yeah, it has to be a right fit. You have to feel comfortable. You have to feel you trust the person. You have to feel they can help you. And there's some chemistry, you know?
Hmm.
There's just some chemistry that goes along with it also.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything that doesn't benefit from hypnotherapy?
Anything that doesn't benefit from hypnotherapy. I would say that we don't, I'm sure there are people who would disagree, but I would say the general rule, we don't use it for people, um, with severe mental illnesses.
Mm.
So we might not, for instance, if someone is psychotic, out of touch with reality, is schizophrenic, is hallucinating, is delusion, we're not going to use it for something like that. We're not going to use it when someone is just maybe immediately we've just met someone and they've just immediately had a trauma. We'd have to get to know the
Yeah,
um so it is often used helpfully with trauma, but not right off the bat.
yeah,
You have to know the person and establish a connection.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't just have someone walk in who's had a severe trauma history and then just do hypnosis. That would be a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So, um, but it's used to great success with anxiety, habit problems, trauma, depression. So just, well, just learning more about themselves. It's very effective
Good. Okay.
with all ages.
Yeah. Okay, so you can't there's not like a line that you would draw and say this person's too young or too old. That's a good I hadn't even thought of asking that question, but is there a kind of an age range that it's most effective, or is it truly any age?
I don't think necessarily there's an age range,
Mhm.
as long as the person's, cognitively intact enough upper end. And it's also very effective with children. And starting around age 10 is probably considered to be they're probably most prime for hypnosis. It can be used effectively with younger children as well. And it's more sort of open-ended and more play therapy as
Mhm.
um, oriented, but people do, um, forms of hypnosis with very young children also.
I can't get my kids that are under 10 to be still, so
Oh, they're not still. It's
yeah.
it's totally different. It's like while they're active, while they're playing, it's not they don't just sit there, it's a totally different format.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, because kids really are in a state of kind of imaginative trance naturally, like when they're playing and pretending, and you're the mom and you're the baby and you're the
Mhm.
teacher, and that's what kind of hypnosis is. You just
Mm.
go into kind of in another world.
That's a good comparison because my kids, when they do play, like, it's just amazing the scenarios they'll come up with, and I'll walk into the room and they're like, you know, it's kind of the typical, like, "Oh my god, you're standing on lava," kinda thing. "Oh, I'm
Right,
sorry. I
exactly.
had no idea."
Right, and that's because they're just in their imaginations,
Mhm.
right? It's really real to them.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what hypnosis does for you. It just allows you to go deeply into your imagination, but kids just do that naturally.
They live there.
They live there. Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what we say. They live there. And it's so fun to watch.
That's neat. I never would have connected that with the kind of hypnosis sort of thing.
Yeah. So that's exactly your words are exactly what I say. They live there.
Yeah.
They live
Yeah.
it's sort of in a state of trance.
Right. Sniper, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them as we continue here. We're happy to toss them in here. So, is there an overall well-being strategy you would recommend to anyone with or without an underlying disorder, with or without therapy or anything?
Yeah, and, I like that question, and I know this is gonna sound really dorky, my answers, but I thought about that, and, I really recommend it's old-fashioned. I think we don't have enough of it. People's mental health is really supported, and they get enough sleep, exercise, good nutrition. That's really the foundation for all, not too much screen time. That's what we really need, kind of slowing. So that's what I really recommend for everybody. Rush around much, not maybe with COVID so much these days, but
Yeah.
we we rush around too much from, so many of us from one thing to another. I recommend we slow down, make sure we slow down our screens, get enough sleep, fresh air, like basic stuff really is what supports mental health.
Yeah. Got me kind of back to the basics. That's why they're basics, right? Like that's why they're considered basic.
Yeah. I could recommend a million more things,
Mhm.
like, you know, focusing on what to be grateful for and kindness and meditation. And I mean, a million other things I could recommend. Honestly, if everybody would just try to eat a little more healthy, get a little more sleep, their bodies moving,
Mhm.
less screen time, we'd all be a lot better off.
Yeah. Bite Mark said, I heard not too much screen time and looked up from my phone and back at my computer.
I know, I guess that's very dorky.
No, but it's totally true. And I'm finding it that it's really hard to make sure that my kids aren't getting too much screen time. Not so much right now because it's summer, but whenever we were doing school at home, it was like constantly on the computer because it was for school. And then whenever they wanted a little bit of a break, it's like, well, now they want to play Minecraft or something. It's really hard right now, especially maybe not in the summer, but whenever school kicks back in, I'm anticipating some of the similar challenges of just making sure that they're not getting too much screen time. It's a struggle whenever they're doing things for school on the computer, for sure.
Absolutely, and believe me, I don't know what the answer is to that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish I did, you know? I mean, and
If you
some of the
discover
schools,
it,
they give
please
the
let me know.
kids, if I discover it, I'm gonna be like a gazillionaire or something.
Oh.
So, you know.
No kidding. No kidding. So if you could change one thing about the mental health field or people's views of mental health professionals and educators, what would that be?
I would change a few things. I would change stigma about getting mental health care. I mean, even though it's shows like yours are, I mean, so great and there's so many things out there to destigmatize it, I would just make people feel like it's okay to get mental health care, especially for males. I
Mm-hmm.
think particularly for men, um, and, boys, teenage maybe not little boys because their moms take them, but, like, teenage boys and men still really, guys don't do that. I would really wanna change that and make them feel comfortable about going and let people know that therapy is ultimately, conversation. Can't read your minds, and that it's a safe thing
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Yeah.
And crazy, there's so many movies and TV shows out there where we look like we're gonna come in and meet somebody who's gonna be, like, bouncing off the walls or something, and we're just regular people.
Yeah. You're not mystical. You're not magical. You're human. You're
Yeah.
human and you're human and you're there. You're there for people. So,
So you're human, and we're there, and we have, lives and just like you do.
yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. With that, we will go ahead and open this up to Q&A. If anybody has any other questions or comments they want to throw out there that you didn't get a chance to ask or that didn't come up, please feel free to type them into chat. And while we do that, I'll just open up the floor to you and say if there's anything else you want to talk about or that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure we cover. I did link to the books that you mentioned and to the podcast that you mentioned as well. So,
Okay, great.
and I know you're going to be sending some links, kind of resources out. I will share those as well in the Discord channel, in the Discord server. So if anybody's interested in those, be sure that you are joined there. But with that, just any other Q&A that you guys put into chat, I'll be sure gets asked. And then I'll just open it up to you to share whatever you would like.
Let's see. I think we covered, I'm just checking through some of my notes. I think we covered a lot. I think it's understandable to get involved in a relationship with a narcissist. I think probably most of us have, and that you can get out of it too, and you can learn from it, just like any other experience. But
Mm-hmm.
just, listen to your voice, listen to your gut instincts.
Yeah. I think
And
that's
that
a
would be
great thing. And if more people could listen to their own kind of intuition, I think that we'd be a lot better off with a lot of things.
Mhm. And I'm happy to take some questions if there
Yeah.
are any.
I don't see any more in there. I think we must have been pretty thorough today. So, well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here today. Chat, give me just a minute. We'll come back. We're going to play some 7 Days to Die as soon as we come back. And let me disconnect with our guest and we will be right back. I'll give you a cat cam because we do have Tyrion is actually on the dog bed and Yo-Yo's over in the chair. So give me just 1 second to disconnect with our guest and I will be right back. And that was my interview with Dr. Stephanie Kriesberg. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. Dr. Kriesberg said something that I think a lot of us need to hear. It's understandable to get involved with a narcissist. That is not a character flaw. It's not a sign that something is broken in you. These people can be charming, magnetic, and convincing, and most of us have been there in some form. The important thing is recognizing the pattern and then doing the work to find your way back to yourself once you have. That part about listening to your inner voice, that really hit different for me being on the other side of my divorce completely now. Because I think most of us have had that moment where something felt off and we talked ourselves out of it. I definitely made excuses. I waited for things to get better. And Dr. Kriesberg was really clear. Those early red flags are not flukes, they are information, and you should trust them. I also want to come back to the hypnotherapy piece, because I know that word makes some people nervous. It's not what you think it is. It's not a party trick. It's a real, evidence-backed tool that helps people access parts of themselves that stress and pain have kind of buried. The idea that you can use it to reconnect with a version of yourself that felt confident and capable, a version that existed before someone else spent a lot of time convincing you that you weren't. I think that's genuinely hopeful. And if nothing else, take this with you. Therapy is worth trying. And if you tried it once and it didn't click, that wasn't therapy failing you. That was one person who wasn't the right fit. Find someone else. The relationship with your therapist matters more than the method. Dr. Kriesberg said it, and I'm saying it again because it's true and it deserves to be repeated. If this episode and this conversation resonated with you, I would really love it if you could share this with someone who might need it. Not in a pushy way, just if someone came to mind while you were listening, maybe send it their way. That's how this show grows, and more importantly, that's how this conversation reaches people who are sitting with something heavy and feeling like they're the only one. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you're listening right now, and leave a comment or a review if you can spare 5 minutes. I know that sounds like a small thing, but it genuinely makes a huge difference in getting this show in front of more people. Every review, every comment, every share, those are the things that really help. You can find us on Discord. We've got a great community where the conversation keeps going between episodes. You can find all the links, including Dr. Stephanie Kriesberg's information, in the show notes, ways to connect, ways to find the community. If any of what she talked about today is hitting close to home for you, I really encourage you to check her page out. All right, that's all I've got for today. Until next time, know that it's okay if things feel heavy, confusing, or downright overwhelming. You don't have to fake being fine. Even tacos fall apart, and they're still good exactly as they are.